right now what is forming your life.
We get to learn with and through others.
We start in 22 seconds.
Live life, see the good days in it, just live. Live life, see the good days, see the good days, follow your potential. And live life, see the good days in it, thrive.
Welcome to the Just Live Festival. We welcome you and we invite you to live fully alive by just living.
Today our special guest is Lori Tate. She is a spiritual director. She's very keyed into the Enneagram, especially the head, heart, and gut triad and how that's formed. And she is a curious person who wants more. You're just going to have a fantastic time with this particular interview.
Now I have an advantage over you because I've already heard the interview.
It's
and
gonna
my
be
mind
good.
right now
It's
is
gonna be
just
good.
blown. Because sometimes we're all about the information. Get it in there. And am I doing the right stuff? And she opens this door into formation, transformation, living in the seasons.
Yep.
Well, I don't want to give it all away, but it is amazing. Stay tuned because we're about to meet Lori.
Okay, so let's jump into it. Lori Tate, ladies and gentlemen of souldig.org.
Imagination, inspiration, get your paper out. Here we go.
Your life is a remarkable story and adventure that only you can create.
We exist to motivate and equip you to live fully alive.
So today in this Just Live Festival, we are so pleased to welcome our special guest, Lori Tate. You are going to love meeting her and hearing from her fully alive life.
My name is Dan.
My name is Susie.
Together we are Duzie. And I love Lori. Lori has been so inspirational in our life. Lives in Jackson, Michigan. She is a spiritual director and Enneagram teacher. She's a mother and a grandmother. And I think one of the coolest things about Lori is in her backyard, she has a labyrinth. And we'll hopefully get into that because I love the walking of the labyrinth. And one of the goals she has, which I think is so cool for half the people on the planet, and it's to be a peaceful, restful woman. And the reason the half, because half the population is women. The other half is men. So maybe the other half could be peaceful, restful men.
Oh, gotcha. I was wondering, like, what's the half about?
I had two people going, what? What are you saying here?
So, Lori, welcome in. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Lori,
Spend
Dan
some
just
time
gave
with
a
you
little
guys.
blurb about you. Who are you? In your own words, who are you and what do you do?
Oh, good.
We are often defined about what we do, but I'm a curious person who longs for more, and not more shoes or more money or more. I might want more plants. I love plants, but
Me too.
I want deeper connection. I long for more. And it was early on that kind of prompted me on this journey. I longed for more in my faith. Isn't there more than what I grew up with? Not that what I grew up with was bad, but it seemed like there was a cycle. And so I am a person that longs for more. Ignatius says, whatever draws me closer to you, God, that's what I desire. And that's a hard prayer. Some days I don't live it well,
Yes.
but that's who I am. And that's what I long for and what I do
Yeah.
personally. Vocationally, it took me all these 3 degrees and I'm a spiritual director. And people are like, what is that? Especially if you come from a Protestant background, and mine was pretty evangelical. It seems very new age-ish and weird. And you know what? It's simply helping people learn to recognize the voice of God,
Wow.
the voice of the holy. And not only do you learn to recognize it, but then to learn to trust it, to trust it. And that's my heart's passion, for somebody to have that connection. Or sometimes it's to help people realize they're closer to God than they thought. They may have thought they were far from God. And I'm like, oh, I see you connecting with God, and even helping them realize that.
Wow.
So that's exciting for me.
Yeah, if you're listening here, I just want you to catch two things. I mean, to me, I just caught two things that just popped out. There is this journey she's on. She talked about starting a journey, and she also talked about curiosity that's sort of taken her around. You know, not necessarily there's the destination, but the following this journey of curiosity. I love that.
And I also heard, I mean, we've just had drops of moments, and here we're like
We can
deep
finish
into
now.
it.
This is amazing.
No, we cannot finish now.
Okay.
But the other thing I heard, not only is she on a personal journey, but she's on that journey to help others also be on that journey to get closer than they thought to God, because it's such a mystical thing, this God connection, isn't it? And helping people learn to recognize and trust. I love that bit. Recognize and trust the voice of the Holy, and step into it, I'm sure. Oh, yes, this is a great, who are you? Yeah, you're a person. I just hear connection is a very high theme right there. Lori, what does it look like for you to live fully alive?
It's a lot different than it used to be. I thought it was, having devotions at the same time every day, reading my Bible, X amount of verses and things. And it's a lot more fluid these days. I think I was on a retreat, and I had this, I just asked, is it really this easy? And there was a very clear, profound yes. It's this easy to love and follow me. And I was like, whoa, now wait a minute. That it can't be that easy. Because if it, but my prayer, which I said, was by the time I'm 70, I want to be a peaceful, restful woman. And it really directs, then it's the plumb line. Is this leading me towards this way? And that's not always a conscious thing every day. It really isn't. And I don't think it has to be, because it's my purpose. It's my intention. I don't get up in the morning and think, geez, am I going to follow Jesus today? No, I've made that. Because a lot of times people feel that way. Yeah. And I'm like, no, I've made that decision. I've made the decision to be married to my husband. I've made the decision, to follow Jesus. There are days I do it much better than other days, but that is my heart's desire, and that doesn't change.
Yes.
And so that is the foundation, I believe, for me, of living fully alive. There's an element that I've learned and understand, that I am never out of the presence of God. And if that is true, it's all spiritual. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Whether you're quoting Rob Bell, Richard Rohr, it all counts. It all matters.
Wow. So good.
And somebody asked me one time, I was a coworker at the church I was at, he made some comment about I'm so spiritual. And I laughed and I said, Ben, all you have to do is say it counts. Then you look spiritual all the time, because it is all spiritual.
So true.
It is all spiritual.
Wow.
There are times that cooking a meal is just like, oh my gosh, is this so beautiful and life-giving? And there are other times the meal is like, geez, I got to cook another meal. It's my intention. It's my desire going into it. And you ask what helps keep me fully alive. I'm connected. I have a peer group. There's 3 other women, Mary Claire, Pat, and Lori. So they're like all feel like Catholic, and Lori. But I've been with them for 12 13 years. We meet once a month. And in January, we launched a spiritual direction school to train people to become spiritual directors, grounded in the Enneagram. That's an important rhythm in my life, this group of women. I meet with a spiritual director, the same woman. I've met with her for 16 years.
Wow.
There are very few months that have missed, that we have not been together. That's incredibly grounding.
Yeah, you're going on the rhythms. Carry on here. So,
what's that? Before you're on the rhythms, it's really interesting the word you use, fluid, because I think many of us come from those church traditions, and we're reading the books, and we do this, and we do this, and we do this, till finally we feel we just have a lot of doo-doo. And it's like we've got to get past that into this fluid place. One of my favorite verses over the last few weeks has been from Nehemiah chapter 8, verse 10. And you have the wall has been built, and Ezra had said, "Hear all the things that the law says." And then this is what's said to them: "Now go enjoy."
Yeah.
But I think we miss that. We miss this go enjoy. It's like we strive after spiritual, where it's like you are. So just live.
just be.
To celebrate.
Yeah.
And I've had to learn to celebrate. My brother Dale's taught me that. It wasn't a bad thing, but we didn't naturally celebrate. It's like, okay, that's done. What's next? No, celebrate.
Yeah.
Celebrate the goodness of that. So Dan, the whole rhythm thing has changed in my life. And the rhythms change based on where I am. I have rhythms for the summer that are different for the winter. Because in the summer, I am a gardener and I connect to the holy. I in the dirt. I am but so even I look at your week. There may be 2 days a week that you have really open time, and you have extended time of meditation. Maybe it's yoga in there, or so you have this extended time. But the fact that you don't spend that much time the next day isn't bad. It's a rhythm. Well, on this day I've got to take my kids to school. This day I don't. So you find this rhythm.
Wow.
And I really believe that God, I said I grew up pretty evangelical. That's an understatement. But God's word is hidden in my heart. And that's a fear of mine now as I look at younger people, is that they may not have the foundation biblically. But Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I lack for nothing.
Yeah.
Lori, you have everything you need today. God, let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my rock and redeemer. I think that might even be Old King James. I think that's Psalm 19. The paraphrase is, God, help me not be a jerk today. Really. I'm not getting up. I tell my teenage daughter, I don't get up thinking, how can I make your life miserable today? I promise you, I don't. Do I? Yes. Am I a jerk sometimes? Yes. But I don't get up with the plan to do that because my heart's not there.
Wow.
And when I am the jerk, when I notice that, I feel like God's spirit is just kind of that little and I'm like, oh God, forgive me. Yeah, that's not who I am. That's not who I'm becoming. And so, the scripture becomes very formative. You talked about Nehemiah. One of my favorite scriptures is, I'm going to mess it up. It's Matthew, I think it's 25:10. The old version is, are you heavy burdened and weary? Come to me. Yeah, come to me, all ye who labor and are heavy bear burden, and I will give you rest. Eugene Peterson says, Are you tired? How many of us are tired? Are you burned out on religion? Come with me.
Wow.
Come with me. Walk with me, work with me. Watch how I do it. Watch how I do this. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. Oh my gosh. And it's so visual because work with me. You're going to have to work or walk with me. Get up off your butt. Work with me. You're going to have to put some effort, which we do know. Watch how I do it. You're not going to do it alone. Find the people that you want to model. Find people, watch how they're doing it. And you might say, I don't want to do it that way. Or you may say, wow, I could do that this way. And you talk inspiring. It's beautiful.
And Lori, this is exactly what we're doing right here with the Just Live Festival. We're doing that. We're watching today how you connect with God. And some of us might go, none of that's for me. But some of us might go like, oh, I'm going to take that and I'm going to try that. And that's a new perspective of connecting with God. Fluid. I never even considered that. I need to put that in there.
I love the way you're embracing the seasons as well. And I think this is really important because I could be following your example, but we may be on different seasons. And I think sometimes we have to embrace the fact that you're in summer, I'm in winter, and we need to help each other. But we got to realize this summer is not going to last forever. This day is not going to last forever. And you're just embracing that. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
And I think the seasons of relationships. So when my children were little, my season looked different. And I have such a heart for young moms or parents, that are like, you don't have to give up your spirituality to be a good parent. What if you're rocking that baby and praying? And I say, it counts.
Yes.
It counts. Reading the Bible with your child, it counts. You don't have to get up at 5 a.m. and try to read the Bible on your own or whatever. It's integrated.
Yes.
Teaching your child, it counts. It looks different in this season of life. And please don't think you are not following Christ.
Yeah.
It just looks different.
Mm-hmm.
And the season will change.
Yeah.
And then you change some of the practices. I have a friend who her spiritual practice is collecting eggs every morning. She goes, I get up every morning and I go to the hen house. And I'm like, that's your spiritual practice. She goes, what? I'm like, sure it is. How consistent can you be? Another woman who walks her dog twice a day. I'm like, God, that is so great. That's your spiritual practice. Well, I'm just saying. And most people, I have a guy who skis in the winter alone once a week. I'm like, you need to do that. If anybody challenges you, just tell him your spiritual director said. It's his practice.
Yeah.
He needs that for his soul.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about...
You're not going to find that in a book.
No.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about spiritual practice because, like we talk about disciplines, rhythms, habits, and my understanding of practice is that you're practicing, like you're going for it. But I'd love to hear from your perspective what you think about those concepts or how you put it.
I think anything can be a spiritual practice. It's our intention. It's not about the specific behavior. That's why the collecting eggs, the skiing, won't be found in a book of spiritual disciplines. No. The one mom walking to her mailbox, that little 6 minutes alone that she could leave her 4 kids at the house and walk to the mailbox. She could walk slower. She could notice and then turn and walk back. So I don't know that I have somebody who quilts. Oh my gosh, it's contemplative. She gets into this place where she is just quilting. And she makes these beautiful quilts for her family members. So I can't think of something that doesn't kind of qualify for a spiritual practice.
Yeah.
Lori,
And that's what I'm saying. Sometimes cooking a meal is a spiritual practice.
Yes.
And other times it's just plain crap, I got to feed my family.
yeah. I mean, it seems, Lori, like what you're saying here is that God doesn't just love you, he likes you a lot. He likes you collecting eggs. He likes you doing these things. He is a father watching his child saying, hey, come here, watch my kid.
Watch this.
And I think we're striving for this A on the report card where it's like, we've already passed. Now we can just live.
Yeah, that's a really great way to put that, Dan. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is
And for people that are parents who get that, you look at your kid with such great love. And I know there are people that don't have great parents or haven't, but to know, even when our kids, I don't want to say disappoint us or make choices, we still love them. We still love them. And yeah, what is more exciting than watching your kid get something?
Yeah.
And to enjoy it. If you gave your kid a gift and they're like, whatever. Whatever. No, I already have one. I don't, that's when our hearts hurt.
Yeah.
And I think God, I think there's a big change in my prayer in these last years. And it's, God, help me receive what you have for me. Because I think that, this is not special for Lori Tate or Dan or Susie, because we're like really special people and God really loves us. This is for everyone. It is for everyone. But sometimes our hands are really tight. And I don't want to receive. Maybe I'm hurt. Maybe I'm broken. And so I just keep my hands tight. I think about the story of the rich young ruler. It's taken on a whole new essence for me in these last year or so. The rich young ruler runs up to Jesus. This is in Mark. This is the one I look at. Runs up to Jesus, good teacher, what must I do to, inherit the kingdom of God? And Jesus says, why do you call me good? Nobody's good except the Father. And the guy says, but what must I do? And Jesus says, well, keep the commands, do this, do that, the 10 commandments. And the young man says, well, I've done all of that since a young age. And some people say, well, he's just being boastful. And I'm thinking, I think he wants more.
Yes.
I think he's saying, I've done this my entire life. I've followed the church. I've done the rules. I followed the God, isn't there something more, Jesus? Isn't there more? Come, isn't, and I feel I was at that place. Isn't there more?
Yeah.
And Jesus said, there's one more thing. Go and sell everything and follow me. And we think it's all about the money. And I'm like, in Peterson, Eugene Peterson in the Message says the man walked away and his face was clouded over because he was hanging on tight to many things. And I love that image of hanging on tight. I'll do that with little kids. Hang on tight. Now, he was hanging on tight to many things. What am I hanging on tight to today? I still hang on tight to things. What do I need to let go of so I can receive? I can't receive anything when my hands are like this. What do I have to let go of to receive? And
the cool thing is when those hands are open, you acknowledge that your Father God is not a stingy God, but extravagant. And I think there's that when we let go, I think that's where
that picture's big.
That's where you too was going years ago when they were singing about, I still haven't found what I'm looking for. There is this more, there is this trust, there's this opening. God, take me deeper, take me farther. How deep does this pool go? And I just, that's that God that surrounds us. Get out of the pool. Here's an ocean. And oh man, I'm taking so many notes here.
Yeah, Jesus said in John 10:10, this is the foundation of the Fully Alive Revolution and Just Live Festival. I have come that you may have life and have it to the full. And sometimes we get satisfied or we're just stuck, we call it, stuck in that rhythm of just a little bit, when there is so much more. There's more to life. There's more to live. And what does that fully alive life that each of us uniquely get to live because of the way he's uniquely formed us?
And there's a lot of doctrine today that would look at that verse and say, well, he will give you life in heaven someday. But the word is right here, right now, quality, vitality, full.
Zoe life.
And it's just like, God is like, live, live.
This is a great concept. Yeah. Let's live here a while.
Yeah, and I don't think, some people say, well, that's a prosperity gospel. And I'm like, no. There's no guarantee that things are up. But I get to choose. Do I see the blessings of God? Am I open to them? Or am I cut off from them? Yeah. And it's an awareness. How am I going to direct my heart today? A choice.
Good.
Lori, this I think the next level here is just to find out a little bit more from you. What has led you to this fully alive stage of your life right now? You're in spiritual direction. Enneagram is a big piece of who you are. Maybe you should tell us your Enneagram type. We're also very into the Enneagram, and I've had some recent courses helping others learn about them on a very basic level. Tell us a little bit about your course, of what brought you here.
Yeah. So like I said, it was pretty much around late 30s, my 40s. And I had even applied for a doctorate degree in education, and I got turned down. And in hindsight, like I wasn't accepted into the program. And in hindsight, I know that was me trying to feed my ego. So me wanting more is, do I need to read another book? Do I need another degree? Do I need, another certificate? And that's what led me into then the spiritual formation, spiritual direction program with the Dominicans. And I know God wanted to change my heart, not just give me more information. And that was before I understood the Enneagram, but I realized that my Enneagram type, so I work off of a harmony triad. It began out with Dr. David Daniels, as he talked about the harmony triad before he passed away. And then Claire Lowrich. She is in my peer group. Claire, who had been deeply involved in the Enneagram, saw this and is a trained spiritual director and began to make this connection of the harmony triad, your head, your heart, your gut, which is Ignatius, Saint Ignatius of Loyola, who did a lot in discernment, and a lot of spiritual direction schools, follow his a lot of his foundational practices. So it's been a big combination of spiritual direction and the Enneagram. And I've realized that the most transformative things in my life over the last 15 years have been spiritual direction training and being involved in spiritual direction and the Enneagram. And it makes me sad that it's not in the church per se, but you know what? I just say maybe it makes it more accessible to people because there are a lot of people who won't go into a church. So those two things have been hugely influential. The Enneagram gives me practical ways to grasp and understand what happens sometimes spiritually. And to say in the olden days, when I was younger, there was no doubt that I wasn't where I wanted to be. But my only answer was to pray harder and love Jesus more and try harder.
Yeah.
Just try harder, and then everything will be okay. And the Enneagram for me was able to give me those insights in those moments of, oh, that's what I'm doing. Oh, that's how I get tripped up each time. And offered a way of grace to something deeper. And that's been beautiful, very beautiful. And, you know, one thing I would say about spiritual direction and about God, if you're hearing a voice that says, you're an idiot, Lori, I can't believe you screwed up again. You just yelled at your kid, you were snarky with your husband, you know, that is never God. There's a lot of things I don't know, but that I will stand, that is not God. That is never God. God does not attack you.
Yep.
For me, it's that gentle, like, oh, Lori Ann, that's not who you are. That's not who you want to be. And so the gentleness, the grace, I know that's the Spirit guiding me.
Lori, I think also one of the things that I would add to that, and I think it's so true, that it's that negative, shameful voice of the enemy that usually is never specific. It's very general.
Vague.
All this stuff, you know, where when the Spirit, when he speaks to us, it's always very specific. And it doesn't cover everything. It's just that conversation you just had, that thought you just had, that's when God is speaking. And too often we bury ourselves under all the stuff that's wrong with me. Well, that wasn't God talking.
Yeah, that's a great point. I like that, Dan, a lot. It's very, very specific. And when it's general, yeah, you need to be, help me. If there's something specific, God, you want to tell me. And I mean, it's a prayer. If there's something specific in there, please show me, God. Again, that openness. Yeah.
For our listeners who don't know what the Enneagram is, it's a basic 9 typing system circle. It's very ancient. We also have just gotten very into it recently. I'm also certified as an Enneagram coach. And I also love it because it helps people know and uncover their internal motivations. It's not based on external behavior at all. For me, I've learned just practices and rhythms that will help me be healthy and awareness of when I'm unhealthy. And that's really helpful. I'm an Enneagram type 7 with a strong 8 wing.
I'm a very strong 3.
with equal wings. And that just means that I'm an enthusiast. I'm the cheerleader. And I have a lot of challenge that comes into me when I come alongside people.
But it gives me permission to be me and allow her to be her. And the connection has never been stronger.
And Dan is a successful achiever. And we knew that, but like you said, it kind of gives, the Enneagram has given us language and understanding and like what are my core fears? What are my core desires? What is that longing message? And what is the sin? You know, mine is gluttony, more of everything that I need to be aware of, and let God fill those spaces as well.
And sometimes we actually allow ourselves then to shift into the growth path, or to shift into, this is a stressful time and I need to shift, and actually, instead of being taken for a ride, we can still live our life and not be shocked. But wow, God has given me so much space in my life to move and to flow rather than to get stuck. And we're so strong on people, you know, live unstuckable. And I think knowing yourself, one of the greatest studies people can do is study yourself, because you're in the image of the Creator. And when you get to know you, you get to know this incredible God who made you.
Yes, that is true. So I identify as a 6, which is in the head triad, or center of intelligence. And because I kind of do more the harmony triad as opposed to the wings in that movement, and all are very valid types of models of the Enneagram, I connect then to the 9, which is my gut, and I can move to my 3, which is my heart. But if you ask me what I feel, I will say, I think I feel. You know, I have to go through my head to get to my heart. And for me, that's a very, very good practice, is making sure I'm not neglecting a part of myself. And so I was on an 8-day retreat last summer, and Sister Nancy says, Lori, your face shows when you are in your head. Your whole body relaxes when you move to your heart. And I'm like, really? You know, in learning to pay attention and then that trust word again, to trust it, trust that, and to trust my gut. You know, you're tired. Maybe you should stop. You don't have to be exhausted at the end of the day to show that I've worked. That's silly. You know, listen to your body. Listen to your body. And again, that is very Ignatius, and the discernment of your head, your heart, your gut. And that's what the harmony triad and the Enneagram does. And I love what you said, Susie, that the Enneagram isn't about behavior. It's about the energy. I can do the exact same behavior. I can take a book and go lay down, and that could be me taking time and resting and restoring. Or I can go take a book and lay down because I've checked out.
Yes.
So the exact same action behavior has come from a very different place.
Yes.
Wow.
And so, you know, being aware of that within, being aware.
Wow.
So
Yeah, I love what you're saying about this harmony triad. We all have access to all 3 of these areas. I usually lead with my heart, and then I do some kind of gut action behavior out there, and then I'm like, oh, time to think. So that is my direction, and my healthy path is when I begin to think more. That always comes last for me, and I'm so glad I have Dan as a very integral part of my life, because he's always thinking. You lead with the head, and so we help balance each other out. And I love what you keep saying about these people in your life that you are journeying in life with, and they can say strong things to you like your face, and you know, this is showing, and just checking in with you because this is what I'm seeing. Help me understand what's really going on.
Yeah. And such beautiful trust there. So there's a mantra that I will use from the Enneagram. So as a 639, faithfulness, my 6, which is loyalty, devotion, faithfulness produces my 3, the doer, make things happen, peace. Faithfulness produces peace. Am I being faithful? Am I being faithful to what I know, to what God has called me to? Am I, and so in Spiritual Rhythms
Good.
of the Enneagram, a book by Claire Lowbridge, and I can pass that on to you guys later, that information,
Yes,
but
please.
there's a mantra for each number, each style.
Wow.
So I think, what was it? Joyfully, I don't know. Sevens were joyfully reform something, or so, but it's just again, just a quick way to recenter back. So when I'm having those hard days, when I'm feeling anxious, faithfulness produces peace. How is God calling me to be faithful today?
Yeah. Let me just speak to the people listening for a moment, because sometimes there's like, what are you guys talking about?
What foreign language are you speaking?
what they're talking about here is, in the process of just living, you have to move from information, just knowing the right stuff, into a place of formation.
Yes.
Where it isn't about necessarily right or wrong, it's about how am I living, because in that state of formation, each day is transforming. So too often we get stuck in information. Did I do right? Did you do right? Let's have a conflict over it, into a state of, wow, I'm forming and I'm reforming, and God is transforming, because this is the whole idea behind live unstuckable.
Yes.
It's you get past the head and you walk through this triad, and there's beauty there. So don't go, anybody. It's just the next level of life that God is inviting us into.
Just want to piggyback on that. Romans 12 talks about don't be conformed to the pattern of this world, which is like, it's just living your life, however it comes, but be transformed. This is the intentional life that we're talking about, that Lori's also talking about. Be transformed by renewing your mind. Then you'll know what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. And Lori is echoing these thoughts over and over again, this transformation that Dan's talking about, that God is in process of doing in our life, is so that we get closer to God, so we know him, and he who formed us is helping guide us in the way that we specifically need it. I'm just hearing these thoughts echoing through our whole conversation here.
Yeah. And so a really simple, easy practice to ask ourselves, is this an invitation or is this a temptation? Am I being invited to something, or is this a temptation? And again, this is our inner work. Dan, there was a period after I was fired from my job at a church. I did not pick up a new book for almost 3 years. I mean, it was just like, I couldn't. You talk about seasons. And even now, I have to be careful that I'm not trying to get just more information. Most of us, I suspect, don't need more this. I need more integration. I need more integration. And so pick out 3 books, 4 books for the year if you want. Get stuck in a scripture and stay with that story. Stay with it. Go back to it, reread it. And if it's, who are the characters in this story? And so going deeper with it, as opposed to saying, I need more. Let's just go a little deeper. I compost, you just pile it on. Just keep piling it on, turning it, and new things happen. So, and that's hard because I like more. but my more is about depth.
Wow.
Not more on a calendar,
Yeah.
not more things checked off.
Mhm.
And is this an invitation, or might this be a temptation for me?
Mhm.
Is this feeding my ego? Is that what that's about? And the Enneagram helps us and shows us what that might be. You know, it's different for each style on the Enneagram.
Right.
And so it's important that you kind of learn, that's how I get triggered, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
I love this too, because what you're hearing from Lori are good days and bad days.
That's right.
But living in them, living through them, don't throw in the towel because it's not the season you want. There is this momentum of keep going. It's very cool.
Lori, speak specifically, because you're telling us about a lot of good days and a lot of amazing practices that I need to be on journey to learn. And you've just triggered some new thoughts and concepts. What does it look like when you're having a bad day, and how can you live fully alive in that grouchy, or you talked a little bit, you labeled it differently, it doesn't matter, but how can you still be fully alive, be fully who God made you to be, and on that journey of being the person God wants you to be, even on bad days?
I think the biggest thing is an awareness and a gentleness of ourselves. The awareness, and quite honestly, I just came off of 3 months of intense life. And I'm like, who made this plan? who has set this agenda, this schedule? And I'm like, I know who did. and had everything happened the way it was supposed, on my calendar, but then you throw in, my husband ends up in the hospital for some issues. He's fine. You got that. You got to get mom to the doctors a couple of times. So that's how many days, and stuff. My son moves home from Kalamazoo back to Michigan, and the room gets painted. And all this extra stuff. And part of that is saying, okay, when I am tired, when I get isolated, and I was going to say when I'm hungry, when I'm not taking care of myself physically. And I look at that, that's a temptation of Christ at the beginning of his ministry. I think I don't know if it's Matthew or Luke, but this idea that when I'm tired and isolated, and so sometimes I know I need connection, and I may not feel like it because I'm the introvert, and I could easily but I know I need to connect with somebody who's life-giving. I know I need to pace myself differently. And even if people don't understand, making sure I'm saying no. I say no to the things I need to say no to. I think scripture again, Psalm 23, even before I knew of a bunch of this stuff, Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I lack for nothing. And then you go to the Eugene Peterson, I have everything I need. And so breathing that in, Lori, there is nothing you need today that you're lacking. You have enough for today. Don't worry, just kind of try to be present to what is today. And so those scriptures really ground me. Recently, again, when I say recently, in the last 18 months or so, been doing a lot of reading with J.P. Newell out of the Ionia community in Scotland, Celtic spirituality that has so resonated with me. And so it's kind of fun because here I am in the middle of Michigan. And I said, the sun comes up in the east comes up over here, and it sets over here in South Haven, where I'm at today, over Lake Michigan. That groundedness and the rhythm of the seasons and the rhythm of Christ, the rhythms that the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases, that as sure as the sun rises in the morning and sets over Lake Michigan, I am grounded in this truth. And that does wonders for my soul. This day, and you know what? The sun came up the day my mom was born 95 years ago. And that's one of those I know and believe it's going to come up tomorrow. So some of those very, very core things keep me very grounded. Sometimes I have to go out and work in the garden and use my body and be exhausted and tired to just kind of get that energy and out of me. So it can vary. But it's true. I mean, and again, these rhythms are for everybody. It's not every day. But every day there's I look for God. The Spirit. And for me, this nature just grounds me deeply.
Love it. Me too.
Just a question for those people who are listening. How would your life be different tomorrow morning if you woke up and said, oh, I lack nothing? Imagine starting every day that way. What trust that is. And anxiety is gone if you lack nothing. Powerful there. Powerful.
Yeah. And Dan, you carry then that throughout the whole day. Because you don't just say it once.
Yeah.
You say it as I'm going out the door, and okay, and I got this, and this. Okay, Lori, you lack for nothing. You have enough for what God has asked you for today.
Yes.
And then dinner comes and you're like, oh, geez, you know what? So what if we order a pizza? Nobody's going to die and go to hell. And I laugh because I have so many people that quote me back at that. And I'm like, really? You're going to tell me that that's what I'm knowing about? Nothing is really that big.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
I make it big. But nobody really is going to die and go to hell if I don't get my floor swept.
Yeah.
So what?
This too shall pass.
Yeah.
But Jesus visited you saying, my daughter, just live. What thoughts or emotions would rise in you?
There would be a very deep peace. A very deep peace. My body would soften. I would just soften and like melt into that. And that's a beautiful question to ask ourselves every day. Yeah. And just kind of really, nothing really matters in that way. And the things I worry about, you know what, if I wait a couple of days, sometimes the answer just comes. It just comes. I don't have to hold that. That's a prayer of mine. God, will you hold this for me? And those are the prayers, Dan, just like I lack for nothing. Those are prayers you pray throughout the day as I'm holding tight.
Yeah.
Can you just hold that for me, God, till later?
Yeah.
Can you just hold that? Can you hold it for me?
That's beautiful.
And that allows us to open our hands, doesn't it? That's a
will you just hold,
prayer.
Yeah. Will you just hold it for me? Because I don't have to do that right now. And yeah. It's kind of go. I
No,
was just going to say, it's kind of,
like-
Susie, like
Yeah.
coming into, your home.
Mm.
And I've had people say this, I love to come to your home. We had a graduation party for Allie, and my friend that I haven't seen a lot in the last 6 years since her last baby, she said to her other friend, do you think I could just lay down on this bed and take a nap? And the other one said, oh, Lori would encourage you to do that. So here they are at a graduation party, and yeah, go ahead, go lay down. Maybe listen to your,
I love it.
that place that you can just be. I don't have to do anything. And I think God invites us to that all the time. We're the ones that I gotta. Yeah.
I just feel so relaxed talking to you.
Well, this is what I was going to say. It seems like we've gone full circle because your response to Susie's question about how would you feel, everything you said was peaceful, restful woman.
Yes.
It's that
You're on journey to be
state
that.
of being is when Jesus says to you,
Yes.
Lori, just live.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
Just sit on the deck. Just sit on the deck.
Yeah.
Just go watch the sunset.
Wow. This has been so rich.
Yeah, Lori, I wish we had a few more hours. We'll have to have you back for another interview and go deeper because I know you love to.
We have a weekly podcast coming soon, and you will be a guest on it more than once.
If you
Oh,
say-
right.
How do our listeners connect with you? You've probably pricked our hearts and our thoughts. You definitely have written down some resources that you've talked about, some of the things that have shaped who you are and how you see God. But how do they connect with you? Best places, ways? Maybe if somebody wants to have you as a spiritual director, get training in how to become one.
Yes.
I know you have some of those resources available. Tell us about it.
So souldig.org is my website. And that's a really good place to find me. You can email me through that. I'm on Facebook as Lori Tate, Soul Dig Spiritual Director. It depends. Sometimes I'm posting, sometimes I'm not. I try not to time myself because I can get very rigid. I know that about myself. So I try not to. And through that website, you would be able to connect to me, and we could then talk about the School of Spiritual Direction, Enneagram training. I am doing a 5-session group spiritual direction starting in August that people could sign up for. It's a paid thing. And it's fun. Last time I had all 5 men, somebody from California, Wisconsin, and then I think some Michigan people, but that was neat.
Wow.
So definitely we have people in Italy and Colombia at our School of Spiritual Direction. And
So good.
that would be awesome.
Well, I hope personally I have the time to jump into one of your sessions. Every time I'm with you, Lori, my mind is like completely expanded. But even more than that, my heart is softened, like this softening. I feel like I just have had a little massage being with you. My spirit, my soul, my mind, my body just feels very refreshed. And I mean, it's a really cool experience. I hope you guys listening to this are feeling just the peace that she's on intention to have and live as a part of her daily flow. Yeah.
Wow.
So good.
So may you live fully alive as you love your life, your world, and your God. My name is Dan.
My name is Susie.
Together we are Duzie. Live fully
and love fully. And thank you so much, Lori, for this this jam-packed, peaceful set of experiences we've had already today with you.
Thank you. I appreciate you inviting me to spend time with you. I love to do that.
Fantastic. Great. So everybody just live.
See you next week.
Whoa! Has this been an amazing time with Lori Tate or what? What? I feel like I'm in the season of God teaching me things and transforming me to be intentional, yes. To be peaceful, yes. She is on journey for herself and with others to help them also just be really intentionally and deeply connected to God.
I'm just stuck on one word, fluid.
That was a real powerful
Just that whole fluid thing, is this an invitation from God, or is this a temptation? And how to walk in that? That's just this was very powerful for me.
For me, I also, one of the things I got was just this picture of not holding tight, but opening up your hands. And one of the prayers was, God, would you hold that for me for a while? Like, have you ever prayed that prayer? I haven't. But sometimes we hold it and we think we're responsible for these things that are unsolved or unanswerable or that we're in the midst of. And God, will you hold that for me right now? And I love the dynamic of her practice and her connection with God, the questions, the prayers, the meditation that she has throughout her day that keep her connected to God, and also just releasing the tension from her body or her head into that space where God can truly take it, and God has it.
In a few seconds, when we finish this, I'm going to go right to my sticky notes and I'm going to write 3 words. I lack nothing. It's going to go
Psalm
on my
23.
mirror. But that's a mindset. My life will change when I realize I lack nothing and I trust God.
I also love the fact, I don't know if you caught this, but she's on a goal, and she decided at the age of 40 or something like that, that she wanted to be a peaceful, restful woman by the time she's 70. So she's on a 30-year journey, ladies and gentlemen. She said she's halfway through it, to learn what it takes to be this person. I don't know if I've had that kind of a long-standing goal for something like this on a day-to-day, moment-by-moment practice. And maybe that's not your journey. Maybe you have another journey, another goal that you're on that is specific for you. But maybe we can, as Lori is showing us by example, be intentional with our fully alive life in the unique way that God has us living it and the season that we're currently in.
So I invite you to just live. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking this. I just want to end with a pause. Just when this is done, don't go rushing someplace. Just pause. Just be. Just reflect on that God that not only loves you, but he likes you.
Just live.